Hi guys, Josh here, welcome to Frames Per Second. Today we're going through my favorite film stocks, discontinued and current, because it's currently Christmas season, so if you have a film savvy friend who you want to get something for, I thought we'd go through some good options and maybe some special options that aren't the norm, so why don't we get into it. These are just some options that I personally really like, and not every film is here physically, but I will go into other ones I like that I just don't have anything of at the moment. But why don't we get started with Kodak? We'll get started with a cheap option, which is actually my favorite color negative film, and that is Kodak Gold. Now Kodak Gold has been called the poor man's Portra, but I actually like it a lot more than Portra. Of course, the grain isn't as fine and the colors aren't as neutral, but it's much punchier and contrasty, especially if you love color. You get good skin tones too, and it is a bit warmer. The other colors pop as well, like reds, blues, greens, those can pop as well, while with Portrait they're a bit more understated. It's cheaper, it's $7 Australian. I've used it for portraiture, I've used it for landscapes, I've used it for street. It's a really good film, but of course make sure you have enough light. And while we're on the subject, of course, let's deal with Portrait. So Portrait 400, it's just a great film, very fine grain. You can overexpose the hell out of it and it still looks good. Great skin tones, good for portraiture. It's probably what I use for it the most, and also in 120 for street, just because you can't get a lot of 400 speed color film. And it's got good colors, even though it is a bit more understated than Kodak Gold. It does have more of a pastel palette. You can still get some of the reds and blues and greens to come out. They just won't be as intense if you're really looking for a color punch. But it's a great film, versatile film, and it's a film that I really like and I highly recommend getting. Of course, it's on the pricier side, but that's because it is very high quality. We'll go into my favorite iteration of Portra, and that is Portra 800. I recently fell in love with Portra 800. That is because I figured out the best way to shoot it, and that's not to shoot it at 800 ISO, but it's to overexpose it and either shoot it at 400 or 200. And part of that reason is because it is an older emulsion. It's based on Vision 2 technology, while the new Portra 160, Portra 400, that's based on Vision 3. But there's something about the 800 that is just unique about it and looks, I guess, more vintage. And we have a portrait shoot episode coming up soon in January that will be on that film, so keep an eye out for that. And then we also have Ektachrome. My favorite version of Ektachrome is a discontinued version called Ektachrome BS. As far as slide film and color film in general goes, that's my favorite. I've gotten some of my favorite images out of it. Unfortunately, because it is discontinued and expired, it does end up being a bit more magenta than I like, so I do have to fix that a bit. But when you front light it, it really works. And I do like new Ektachrome as well, so that is on my list as well. And it does come out in 120 in a few weeks, so keep an eye out. The only thing is that it's very expensive, and so that's one of the reasons I don't shoot it a lot. And we're going to talk about TryX. I'm more of a TryX guy than I am a HP5 guy. HP5 is great and all, but TryX is my go-to. Pushes well, has great contrast, has great grain, and if you shoot it right, the grain's even not noticeable. And it's just classic. It's a formula that's been around for over 50 years and is still going strong, and it's really cheap. And to get started with black and white, I highly recommend TryX, but you can also use it professionally. Ilford Delta 400. I know HP5 is the main one that Ilford is known for and people love, but I think I like Ilford Delta 400 better. It just has a different look, and I really like the way the grain is. Obviously it's that tea grain. I don't know, it really surprised me. I kind of just brought it along on a shoot, and it was kind of a backup roll because we wanted to get a few more shots, so I threw it in, and it ended up being my favorite stuff from that shoot. Foamers, Retropan. Retropan is one of my new favorite films. Definitely a lot flatter than most of the black and white films I like. It's really grainy, obviously on purpose, but there was just something about it that I absolutely loved, and you'll see some images here, but make sure you go see the full episode when it comes out in a few weeks. It's quite cheap too, so why not give it a go? And we have Washi Film, which is a really small film company in France that are doing unique stuff. Washi F. This is X-ray film that's been cut up so you can use it on your 35mm camera. I don't think they do it in 120. The way the highlights in this film turn out, is really cool. It's more that its potential for portraiture is why I have it in this video. For Lomography, we have my favorite film from them at the moment, and that is Lomography 800. This is also based on a Kodak Gold emulsion, Kodak Gold 800, and it's a gorgeous film. It has that gold look to an extent, but it's a little bit cooler and less intense with the colors at times. Unless you shoot it at golden hour, then it like really gets punchy. And so I definitely recommend it. It's also a lot cheaper than CineStill, cheaper than Portra. And so I definitely recommend Lom 800. You get lots of good stuff. It pushes a stop really well, and I have pushed it 2 stops, which is a future episode. And it mostly turned out pretty good too. Now, CineStill obviously has their 3 different types of films. You've got the CineStill 800T, the 50D, and the black and white XX. 800T is definitely my favorite from the range. It's tungsten balanced film, so it's going to be different from your daylight balanced stuff, obviously. And so it does get a unique look. It also has pretty nice grain, it pushes really well. You can push it 3 stops and it still turns out pretty good. The only negative is the halation that gets around the highlights, which sometimes it actually works with what you're shooting. Other times it kind of ruins the shot. But if you know what you're using and why you're using it, that's not going to be a problem. I guess it is kind of a specialized film in that extent, but it's still a really nice film, great for street, really good for portraiture. I still have several rolls of the old Acros in 35 and 120, and it is definitely one of my favorite black and white films. It's 100 ISO, so obviously it's not that fast, but it's got amazing grain, amazing contrast, and yeah, there's just something special about the way Acros looks. It almost looks digital. Sometimes it does look digital, but I don't know, there's just something about it that makes it just a little bit more special to look at. But it's a great black and white film, and they've just brought back a new version, which will be an upcoming video as well. My favorite slide film from Fuji is actually discontinued, and so you can only get it expired, and that is Sensia 100. It is much warmer, it's almost Kodak-y in a way for a Fuji film. It's probably my second favorite color film, second favorite slide film. It's kind of almost tied with Ektachrome VS. When it is expired and hasn't been cold stored, it gets hella red and pink and magenta-y, which you can kind of fix, or you can kind of leave it if you want that kind of lomography kind of look. I have gotten nice stuff from the super expired stuff, but when it's fresh or cold stored, it looks fantastic, and it just reminds me of summer. Fuji Pro 160 NS, which isn't available in the US, it's really only available in the Asia area. It has a warmer look, it's not as intense with the reds, and I like it quite a bit. It does, I guess, look a bit Kodak-y as well for a Fuji film. It's great for portraits, it's great for landscape, it's great for street, and it's finer grain as well, so obviously it's 160 ISO. But as far as discontinued stuff go, there are some good films from Fuji as well. You got the Riella, which has fantastic true to life colors. It basically renders colors how you see it, but yeah, really realistic colors, hence the name. And I think it's great for portraits and landscapes, but it's a great film, and I do hope Fuji brings that back. Fuji Superior 800 Venus. Now this is my second favorite color negative film. It's great for nighttime. The 800 Extra was definitely more true to life. The 800 Venus is more saturated and contrasty, and that's why I like it over, say, Superior 400 Extra, because it is slightly different. It's a variation, kind of in the way that Portra VC was a variation, or Ektachrome VS is a variation, and I love it for portraits. I love it for just night stuff, street, but yeah, I think it's definitely something I use more for portraiture, fashion kind of stuff. It has been discontinued officially now, but it's still available, so I'm kind of stocking up on the film because I know I won't be able to shoot it soon. I hope you liked the video, guys. Feel free to like and subscribe as well. And there's also still a lot of films I haven't checked out that are still pretty current and getting made, so hopefully I'll get to those eventually as well. But yeah, these are just currently my favorite films at the moment. But anyway, I'm Josh, this has been Frames Per Second. Just get out there, shoot some film.